Considering that First Take is an early morning show, I appreciate you being with me one last time. And Stephen A., through three quarters before Clay goes down, this was a spectacular basketball game. Both teams are shooting better than 50%. Neither can really separate itself from the other. Clay goes down, and then it felt like there was exhaustion. It felt like Steph was the focus of all the attention of Toronto, who did a great job, as Steve Kerr said. What was your sense of what would happen in that fourth quarter, given the way things kind of dissolved in terms of the level of play? What was your sense of how this would go?
Well, I just felt the outcome was inevitable once Klay Thompson went down. You knew that you would need more from Steph Curry. They did an exceptional job of really blitzing him and collapsing on him, getting the ball out of his hands on a lot of occasions. He ended up shooting 6 for 17 from the field for the evening, but at times they zoned him up, they boxed and won him. You know, they did those kind of things to get the ball out of his hands, but you sort of knew that one of the snipers for the Splash Brothers would get loose, and that clearly was the case with Klay Thompson. 30 points, 8 of 12 shoot from the field, all 10 of his free throws he made. He had 30 points in 31 minutes. With about 2 minutes and change left, he had 30 points in the third quarter. So I thought that he would explode. And the second that he went down, you were wondering where were they going to get the offense from. The Raptors were around. They were together. They were focused. They were poised all series long. And you just got the sense that this was just too much to overcome. KD being out, and then obviously for Klay Thompson to have this happen to him the very, very next game, it just spelled doom, and you could sense the inevitable would arrive.
Stephen A., this is a stars league, and Kawhi is a star. He showed it again. But you know what's mind-boggling to me? Fred VanVleet had 14 points in an entire series against Philadelphia, and when push came to shove, he shows out in the fourth quarter of a closeout game and makes the shot that gave him a lead. They never surrender. I'm curious what your sense is of a guy who's been saying bet on himself, and then that bet pays off.
Well, I just pay attention to Masai Ujiri. This guy assembled this squad, and just look at the personnel. It wasn't just VanVleet who came off the bench and produced. How about Ibaka? 6 blocks in game 3, 20 points in game 4. Shows up and gives you 15 points off the bench tonight. When you see that kind of production from these guys, from him and VanVleet off the bench, you see a Kyle Lowry who's in the midst of a 3-year, $100 million deal. He shows up on the court. At one time earlier this season, he had to have a sit-down meeting with Masai because things weren't going right. He wasn't getting along. He had a problem with the fact that DeMar DeRozan was gone. All of these other issues, but somehow, some way, they sat down, they resolved it. And what are we talking about here? Not just Kyle Lowry, the player, not just Kyle Lowry who showed up in the postseason better than he ever has, but Kyle Lowry, the leader. He wasn't just making shots earlier. He was feeding VanVleet.
Sure.
He was feeding Siakam and other guys. He was not just a scorer. He was a floor general. He was an extension of Nick Nurse on the basketball court. And then you look at a rookie coach in Nick Nurse. You get rid of the coach of the year in Dwayne Casey, who guided you to 59 wins. You bring in a guy that had never been an NBA head coach, and then you give him that job. And in his first year, he guides you through Philadelphia, through Milwaukee, when we thought they were done, and obviously took advantage of practically every opportunity that was presented to him. You just can't say enough about Masai Ujiri. This is one of the reasons why the Washington Wizards and basically any other team probably wants him as their president of basketball operations, because he bet on himself, he bet on his team, and obviously they came through for him.
Yeah, Woj is reporting that they're going to make a monstrous offer, they being the Wizards. And
they should.
Yep, Kyle,
and they should.
Listen, as a guy from D.C., I agree. Kyle Lowry's going to join us in a minute. And Stephen A., just looking at this Golden State team that's got a couple of guys that we all know are free agents this summer or could be in KD and Clay. And given the injuries that they suffered, who knows what the impact of that will be moving forward. What's your sense of what this Golden State team looks like moving forward? Did we see the last of what they were tonight?
I don't think you've seen the last, but I think you'll see a delay. Kevin Durant won't be back for the most part next season. The same could be assumed about Klay Thompson because of his injury. And the fact is you've got Dre and you've got Steph Curry. I think you'll see a delayed reaction where they might not win it all or even get to the finals next year, but thereafter, I don't think you have anything to worry about with the Golden State Warriors. They'll be in the championship picture for a few more years to come. It just might be a pause in the action for next season because of the injuries they've sustained and how they'll need to regroup.
And I'm saying if you're Toronto and if Kawhi doesn't stay, I don't care. Masai pushed all his chips in and he won this hand. And if I'm Toronto, that's enough, even if this is it. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree with it. You took a risk for this very moment to capture a championship. You made the bet that if we captured this, it would be worth it. And oh, by the way, it was really to get over the hump and get to the NBA Finals. Well, they didn't just get here, they won it, albeit assisted by a plethora of injuries to the Golden State Warriors. Remember, Iguodala in Game 1, KD before the series began, then in Game 5, Klay Thompson misses Game 3. All of that stuff happened, and Boogie Cousins wasn't himself either. But in the end, you took advantage of the opportunity and you got the job done with focus, with poise, being led by a superstar who reminded us he's a superstar. He played like it. He was worthy of NBA Finals MVP. It was worth the risk because you've received the ultimate reward. No matter what happens, mission accomplished.
You and I completely agree. Stephen A., you wake up early, you do a couple hours of TV, then you go do radio, then you do Sports Center hit specials, and then you come on with me late at night, man. I appreciate you doing it. I know nobody works harder than you. Thank you, and until our paths cross again, stay well, all right, my friend?
My man, thank you so much. It was great working with you with the finals, buddy.
Always.
Great job.
Yep, that's Stephen A. Smith. Raptors set a record along the way. 5 wins by a road team. Look, we saw the Blues last night. Steve Levy saying home ice means nothing in the Stanley Cup. Well, home court didn't mean much when Toronto was involved. The 5 wins tie for the most all-time in a single NBA Finals in this series in Toronto. Celebrates in California. Nick Nurse at the podium.
It was a heck of a 12 months, and I don't know. I just try to take things as they come. You know, he didn't look too far ahead. Obviously, when we made some additions to the team, you know, we thought we could be good, but we had no idea what the health status was and all those things. And again, you just got to go take the guys you got and go play and manage it the best you can, and then look at the opponents and try to figure out a way to beat them. And it was a great group, though. They really played together. I thought they really fought hard. They were tough-minded. They didn't seem like this was wearing on them at all. 2 months of playoff basketball. They never seemed tired to me mentally. They kept wanting the film sessions. They kept wanting to walk through things. They kept wanting to keep learning and improving, and I think that was a big key because we had to do that in the playoff run because we really hadn't had all that much time together.
Steve on the right side on the fourth row.
Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. Nick, every Eastern Conference team that began the season aspiring to get to the finals knew there was a good chance that they would run into the Golden State Warriors. How much does it add to what you guys have accomplished that you beat a team that will be considered one of the greatest in league history?
Well, I mean, first of all, you're right. I think you thought get through the East and the chances were you were going to be playing Golden State. I mean, I probably stayed up late and watched Golden State more than anybody just for the heck of it, right? Just to see what they were doing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It means a lot for our city and the country and for these players, staff. You know, an incredible group of people, my assistant coaches and the support staff. And I don't know if it would have meant any more or any less. To be honest with you, you get the win and you're just happy you got it and celebrate that fact.
As you saw the attrition in there.
Nick Nurse, the 5th rookie head coach in the last 50 years to lead his team to the World Championship. Paul West said Pat Riley did it for the Lakers in the early 80s. But it has now happened 3 times in the last 5 years. Steve Kerr, Ty Lue, now Nick Nurse has joined the list. If you hear me chuck...
After party, that's all I know. She's a real reporter. Michelle still better end up at that after party. Or Tim Legler still with us here on SportsCenter. With Kevin Durant only being able to play about 11 minutes in this entire series, and then unfortunately Klay Thompson going down tonight, you knew that Steph Curry is going to carry a lot of the burden for that offense. But what we saw tonight was some good defense on Steph by the Raptors and some poor defense at the other end by the Warriors.
And I mentioned a turning point. I felt this was a critical stretch here because Steph Curry actually comes off this first screen. Looks like he's going to have a clean look. It's a great reaction by Marc Gasol. But again, it's the attrition of what the toll physically that was taken on this team and who's on the floor at the time.
Right.
So here you get Looney come down and set this screen. Curry's going to come down to this area, and it's actually one of the few times that Curry's man is actually screened. Fred VanVleet is stone cold stop. There's no way he's going to get out here and recover. But take a look at the reaction by Marc Gasol. Now, part of this is because he realizes he's not worried about Kevon Looney. You know, on the other side of the floor, you got a non-shooter in Iguodala, so Kawhi Leonard could be off the ball. Lowry's not all that concerned about Quinn Cook. They're just not worried about it. They're worried about one guy. And so when you get that level contest right there, I mean, that's hand on hand. He forces even an extra arc for Steph Curry. You get the miss. And right out of that, this is what Toronto gets on the other end. Critical mistake right here. Comes off. You can see right now, Draymond Green is up. And so that tells Quinn Cook, he thinks now on this slip by Siakam, he thinks he's going to run down the lane and take away this drop-off pass. But watch what happens to Draymond Green. As VanVleet comes off, he stunts, but then Draymond Green sinks. So now you get both defenders back in the lane on Pascal Siakam. And look at all the room for Fred VanVleet. Critical stretch. You cannot say enough about the way Fred VanVleet played, not only in this series, the way he turned his postseason around after the way he started. It was at a point where I was surprised Nick Nurse was still playing him earlier in the playoffs because he had lost all confidence. Way to turn it around and come through in a huge way. But for me, that's a key 6-point swing, 4 minutes to go. Curry hits that and they defend that well. Might be a different story.
Absolutely.
Might be a different outcome.
Yeah, that's just Nick Nurse basketball. The other thing is, right, they got second chance after second chance. And it wasn't just like 1 second chance. They had possessions where they had 3 and 4 bites of that apple.
Yeah, and look, this is what Golden State runs into. They play smaller lineups, we know that, but these weren't even their normal smaller lineups. You don't have Klay Thompson on the floor. You don't have Kevin Durant on the floor. They're guys that can go rebound their positions well, and it was a key stretch here in the fourth quarter. You know, they get these putbacks right here. This is just big boy ball. Siakam just goes, ball of Andre Iguodala, gets a tip, gets his hand on it, kick out. That leads to 3 free throws. VanVleet knocks all 3 down. You get a tie game. Here's another one. Nice contest by Boogie Cousins. And again, Siakam and Ibaka just throwing people around under the rim. Serge Ibaka gets the putback, and this one was critical. 4-point game. That's a 22-foot rebound that Siakam runs down. And ultimately, you're going to end up, I think this is the one that Kyle Lowry hits this fadeaway on that gets the lucky bounce. But this is all set up by the key rebound off a missed 3-point shot where Golden State sort of breaks down mentally and Toronto beats them to the ball. That was a team that smelled chum in the water, and they run that rebound down because they realize you score in that possession, it's just going to be too much for Golden State to overcome.
As you said earlier, Kawhi was phenomenal in this entire series. Kyle Lowry had some good games. Siakam had a game. They put together a very good effort, and they should deserve all the credit for taking down the champs. However, in the Bay Area, this series will be remembered by who didn't play. Of course, Kevin Durant only played 11 minutes. And then in this game, Klay Thompson goes down with an unfortunate knee injury. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but let's show the video again to the people at home who may haven't seen it, exactly what happened to Klay Thompson on this play.
Yeah, you know, Steph Curry gets the steal, throws it ahead to Klay, and he's got the angle on Danny Green. But how many times I've seen Klay Thompson with 6'7" height take that thing under the defender to the opposite side of the rim and shoot that reverse layup. For some reason, in this particular case, now Danny Green is pretty good at tracking you and blocking shots at the rim for a guard. We've seen him do it multiple times, even in the playoffs. That's probably what Klay was thinking. He goes to dunk it, but when he takes both hands above his head, Mike, and he gets bumped from behind, it's just enough to knock you off balance that you're not in control to absorb that landing the way you should with both quads. And instead, that knee, you can see it buckle. You know, I had some hope when he went back and you saw him running in the hallway and he was jumping a little bit. I had some hope. As a guy that's had a lot of knee injuries myself, I said, well, maybe it's not the meniscus then, because at first I was worried about the meniscus. But then you see there, and this is when we knew you're not going to see Klay Thompson, and we obviously don't have any idea the extent of this injury. But look what they're left with. Some part of me thought, is this just the attrition of a 5-year run of all these playoff games, right? And all this pressure and all the physicality.
Playing deep into June for 5 straight years.
Think about it, 5 years in a row. And you get some of these fluky type injuries that happen to you because your body is worn down. And it's such a shame for him as Klay Thompson was playing out of his mind. I mean, I was at the point I'm thinking, if they come back and win this series, Klay Thompson might win the Finals MVP, and Steph Curry might have 4 rings without a Finals MVP. If Klay Thompson comes in and steals it, that's how well he has played and maybe potentially salvaging this, but obviously they ran out of gas.
And also for Klay Thompson, free agent year coming up this summer, and now he has this injury just the way that Kevin Durant did. Unfortunate in several aspects.
MVP award goes to Kawhi Leonard, also available if needed.
Yes.
But I'm not sure anybody had a better week or a better couple of weeks than Fred Van Vliet, right? Wheat shocker, go for that, right? He is little Fred, got the baby.
New baby who
and
dis.
now I got a championship ring. That's good stuff. I feel like he should talk to Doris Burke or something.